This is Let Us Interrupt You, episode 69 here on Sunday, August 14th, 2022. Yes, I am doing this on a Sunday, not on a Saturday. Unfortunately, I was under the weather on Saturday, so I could not be able to do my podcast duties, but I did postpone it. If anybody saw the postpone post on Facebook, I posted to today. So I have it on. So I have it for you right now as I'm doing it live right now on my laptop. No mic, just me with this short hairdo. Anyway, this is episode 69 here. I'm going to cover a little preseason football action. Not much to tell about this really, although there were some impressive showings throughout the preseason, which, I mean, kind of did surprise me. I will admit I did not expect much of a surprise really, but I saw more surprising things happen with Desmon Ridder. And Desmon Ridder is my number one really my number one fan at this point. I'm a fan of right now, Desmon Ridder. I don't know if I said it the other way around just now, but I think I just did. But anyway, Desmon Ridder in Detroit, when he beat the Lions last night, or I think it was either Friday night or last night, he showed me something. And, you know, I tell this podcast as Desmon Ridder is the next Steve Young because he was able to do a short drive. It was almost like magic, the way this guy did this drive towards the end of the game, which held the Falcons beat the Lions, by the way, 27-23. But up to this point, as of it was Friday night, it was that game. So it was Friday night. Ridder came back, you know, despite the fact his numbers weren't that great. He was 10 for 22. It's a work in progress. I think years to come right now, he'll be the next Steve Young. I think he's the only quarterback that I thought of so far to be the next Steve Young. I never said about Lamar Jackson. I never said about Michael Vick. Hell, I never even said about Tim Tebow. But this kid right here has got the goods at this point to become the next Steve Young. And I think he'll be the one that takes Marcus Mariota's job. I really wasn't impressed with him last night in the game. But, yeah, really it was late towards the game, really. I mean, with about a minute 30 left in the game, 21-yard touchdown pass to Jared Bernhardt from Ridder to put the Falcons up 27-23. His numbers were 10 for 22, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns. And 2 touchdowns is one thing. For him to throw 2 touchdowns in the game kind of did surprise me. I mean, you know, he was mostly in there from the second quarter really to the fourth. So he was in there for most of the game, which I thought was great. Great strategy on the Falcons' part to show Marcus Mariota a little bit of goods, but, you know, save most of it for Ridder in this one. And I think that's a good strategy right now for this preseason. That's why they only have it 3 weeks now at this point. But I think Desmon Ridder at this point took the job from Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota is not going to last this team as a starting quarterback. I don't think they'll be that good. Ridder, you know, I know it's early. I know it's only week 1 of the preseason, but he's still got a lot of progress to show. He's shown here up to this point, and he's shown some progress right now. I mean, it's there's a lot of room for growth. I think in the next 3 or 4 years down the road, he's the next Steve Young. He's the closest thing to it. And even in that comeback drive last night, I mean, it showed that he wanted to win the game that badly for the Falcons. And it felt like a regular season game watching that game on my phone the other night. Yesterday when I was sick. Anyway. The rest of the games were interesting. Kenny Pickett did well in his Pittsburgh Steelers debut, even though he did not start the game. It was Trubisky. But Pickett did throw a 24-yard touchdown pass to Tyler Vaughn with about 3 seconds to play in the game. Pickett went 13 for 15 this game, 95 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was the second person that impressed me in his entire preseason weekend up to this point. And I would say coming out of this week, I would say the most impressive thing was Perkins. Of the for what he showed in the game, 5 carries for 49 yards in this game, and he was good. He was good in this game. He you know, I think, you know, there hasn't been a guy who I felt like has lived up to the LT comparison, but he might be, and I might be just overthinking this, but he might become the next LaDainian Tomlinson. I mean, I kind of look at him right now with the stiff arms and the way he moves. He's quick. He's short. He's got like the LT bot at this point. And I think he's probably the closest thing to a LaDainian Tomlinson comparison. I would say wait about 4 or 5 years maybe, and maybe there'll be some changes right now. It'll be tough to see what he'll do with Houston, considering Houston's offensive line kind of sucks. But anyway, those are the only three players that teams that really impressed me. As far as the scoring goes, Giants beat the Patriots Thursday night 23-21. The Ravens beat the Titans 23-10. That's another thing, too. Malik Willis impressed me as well. Had 107 yards passing, had great effective drives. One drive kind of stalled early in the game, but other than that, Malik Willis was my fourth person that impressed me out of the entire preseason weekend. So not many people impressed me besides those four. So that's that. Trey Lance and the 49ers Friday night beat the Packers 28-21. Falcons beat the Lions, like I mentioned earlier, 27-23. Watson played despite the fact that now he could be possibly suspended for an entire season. The NFL is trying to appeal and get him suspended even longer because he got 6 games so far, so he might get the entire season. Cardinals-Bengals 36-23. Jets beat the Eagles 24-21. It came with some injury news on Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson now injured. Came up with a limp. He sprained his. I think it was a sprained kneecap. I think he had right now. I'm not really sure. It is his knee. It's not a torn ACL, but it's a sprained meniscus kind of type of deal. He's meant to miss 2 to 4 weeks. Not a big deal. I think he'll be fine for week 1. I don't see how he doesn't come back for week 1. Saturday, Chiefs lost to the Bears 19-14. Panthers beat the Commanders 23-21. The Bills beat the Colts 27-24. Steelers beat the Seahawks 32-25. Dolphins beat the Bucks 26-24. Texans beat the Saints 17-13. Broncos beat the Cowboys 17-7. And the Rams beat the Chargers 29-22. And currently right now, the Raiders and Vikings are playing right now, and the Raiders are up by 7. So far, Sinner's been 7 for 11 in this game for 43 yards. Really, other than that, that's the only coverage I'm going to give you for preseason because it's preseason. I mean, we already know who already has a job at this point. It's all about the rookies, really, about proving themselves and whether or not they've earned the job or not and their respective positions they were drafted in. But I think Desmond Ridder so far looks like a guy so far that looks like he might get a job over Marcus Mariota in week 1. I truly believe that he will. I don't see how he doesn't. I mean, I know the numbers don't look promising, but for a guy who's starting his first preseason game, got the most work between the second quarter and the fourth quarter, and most of it really between that early part of the first half and most of the second half, I don't see how you don't give the kid a job already. I don't see how you don't do it. I mean, is Ridder throwing the ball a little bit too much right now, overthinking things? I think so. I mean, every rookie has that issue. But I look at Marcus Mariota, I think to myself, I don't trust Marcus Mariota with his offense more than I trust Desmond Ridder right now. And it showed last night with that comeback fourth quarter drive, really put the game away with about minute 30 to go. I mean, it kind of sealed the deal right there in the end of the game. So we'll see how that goes going forward. Next week, the game's on for next week. So Thursday will be Bears Seahawks. That's on ESPN. You know, the Panthers at the Patriots on Friday the 19th. Saints Packers, Texans Rams, Broncos Bills, Lions Colts, Commanders Chiefs on Saturday. These are everything on Saturday, by the way. Buccaneers Titans, Raiders Dolphins, 49ers Vikings, Steelers Jaguars, Cowboys Chargers. That wraps up the Saturday night version of this. Sunday afternoon will be the Eagles Browns, Bengals Giants, Ravens Cardinals, and the Monday edition will be the Falcons and the Jets. I mean, Desmond Ridder look right now, it could be the next Steve Young. And Dameon Pierce, I believe, is the next LT. I mean, it's been 10 years. Actually, it's been 11 years, actually, since I figured out who will be the next LT. And after watching Dameon Pierce, he kind of fits the mold. Derrick Henry is like a bigger, jacked up Adrian Peterson. And Damian Harris, who's really in his second or third year in the league, is practically the next, and I will say right now, probably the next Austin Eckler, in my opinion. Sounds kind of crazy to say, but it's true. I mean, that's my opinion. I think that is a really good comparison because he kind of fits the Austin Eckler size and mode and the way he moves and jukes. I mean, Harris is a little bit huskier, but I mean, as far as what has transpired here, I mean, that's yet to be seen. Ryan Jensen's injury story continues as he was carted off a training camp a week ago, or a couple weeks ago, I believe it was. They're saying right now they're delaying the final diagnosis right now at this point, which I don't see why they're delaying at this point. I mean, the guy's knee's still swollen up. He definitely either tore the ACL or sprained it. It's one of the two. I doubt that a knee that's still swelling right now, it's not going to just be a sprain or a high sprain. It's going to be something major bad. But this is according to CBS Sports. They're delaying the final diagnostics. I look at it like this. Just get to the news. Just tell us that the guy's out for the year, and that's it. And this dictates whether or not Tom Brady's going to have a good year or not with the Bucs anyway, with their offensive line. I need to hear that news. I need to hear that news. I mean, at this point, don't delay us with any bull crap. Just tell us. Just tell us whether or not the guy's is out for the year or not. It just, at this point, it's stupid. There was a report today that Tom Brady was, quote unquote, not engaged with training camp. Just seemed like he just was miserable with training camp. This is according to Ben Volin. I think it was on CBS Sports today or the Wall Street Journal. I think it was Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and CBS Sports were the first ones to get their hands on this story. Also, Black and White Sports podcast. I was able to listen to it earlier today, and it seemed like the Tom Brady was not really engaged. I mean, I could be wrong. I doubt it. I didn't really see I saw a few videos of him passing to Julio Jones and throwing deep balls at Julio Jones, but I could be wrong. But I don't think that was a guy that was disengaged. But look, maybe it's a guy that's frustrated, finding out that everyone's slacking off in camp, or maybe they just couldn't handle the heat. And you got Chris Godwin, who's still not 100% banged up and hurt. You got Mike Evans, who's not even doing much because he's out with a hamstring. And you're down at Julio Jones, who you're praying to God is not going to be banged up and injured, because if you're just down to God, let's put it this way. Let's say Evans is not going to do well and he's injured for the entire preseason right now. He doesn't show up for week 1. And you're left with a banged up Godwin and Julio Jones, who might injure himself again, might tear an ACL. If he tears an ACL right now, Julio Jones, I think their season's kind of finished. I mean, they'll still win the division, but I don't know if they're on a Super Bowl chase without Julio Jones. I don't know. I mean, you have Evans and you have Godwin, but I don't think it's enough. I mean, without Gronk being there, can you rely on Kyle Rudolph? Is Kyle Rudolph the number 1 tight end in that team now? Is he the elite tight end? I think maybe he is a little bit, but it didn't show it when he left the Minnesota Vikings here. I don't know what will happen in Tampa Bay. Is he the same guy he was in Minnesota? That's yet to be seen with me. So I just think it'll be very telling here on how this will go. And I'm still going to call him Kyle Gronk once the regular season starts. I'm not going to call him Kyle Gronk now because, there's no point. There's no point getting into that one. James White announced his retirement as of a couple of days ago, actually. He's done 8 NFL seasons, 3-time Super Bowl champion. He's had no fumbles in his career, which is hard to believe. Holds a Super Bowl single records for most receptions, points scored, and touchdowns. And that came from Super Bowl 51, where you could have argued he could have won the MVP that night. But yeah, 3 Super Bowl championships, 8 NFL seasons. Is he going to Canton soon? I doubt it. I don't think the guy's going to go to Canton right away just because he didn't play a full 10 to 12 or 13 seasons with that accolade. He only lasted 8 seasons, which is kind of surprising that he only lasted that long. I thought he was there a lot longer than that, but it seemed like he was, but I guess not. So James White announced his retirement. So that's all I got to say about that. So the guy, look, I think that hip injury may be the cause of why his career is over. I didn't hear anything about, him rehabbing a hip injury and all that. I didn't hear any progressing news about him being healthy for the 2022 season. So when White went quiet through social media and all that, I kind of figured that he'd be retiring soon because no one was talking about him. So he didn't seem like he was needed in the team. So what was the point of sticking around? And White was still a free agent. Nobody wanted him. So, that's that. And it's kind of sad for a guy with a 3-time Super Bowl champion, the guy to hold the most single record, and he really came close to being Super Bowl MVP back in Super Bowl 51, which he should have been. For him to retire right, I think where the Patriots could use him, I think, in certain situations. I don't see how he wasn't really a strong priority to have him come back because I don't think Damian Harris is ready to take that job yet from James White. I just don't think he is. He has a job right now because he's the only veteran that can really do anything in his second year. So, that's the reason why he has a job right now. But James White was a really good option to have. He was a good wide receiver to have from the running back position. He was He was the one guy that could get wide open right now out in the secondary. I mean, from the wide receiver position, slot or out wide. And, but now he's retired. It sucks. It's kind of sad at this point that they didn't try to bring him back. It really is kind of sad. The Chiefs and Bears yesterday played in horrible conditions. This is according to ESPN.com. NFLPA president calls for the league's reevaluation for acceptable service after the preseason opener in Chicago. This is what was reported. Full with noticeable divots and patches of missing grass, the field conditions became so noticeable that J.C. Tretter, the president of the NFL Players Association, took to Twitter to question why the league allowed Bears and Chiefs players to perform on such a poor, visible state. Now, I watched this game back, and the stadium looked absolutely terrible. I don't know if there was a gang war mentality that took place that literally just ripped half the field, or like big giant divots were shown there. They were all wearing cleats, and they were all like being WWE superstars, kicking each other in the face and throwing dirt and stuff like that. I don't know if there was a non-televised wrestling pay-per-view going on at Soldier Field the night before, but the field looked like a disaster. It was absolutely disgusting. For a field crew to not even fix that and make the players play like that is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely devastating to see a football field look the way Soldier Field looked. It looked like a piece of junk. It looked like an abandoned football field that you would see in high school that closed down like 20 years ago. That's what that stadium looked like. It was kind of painful. Let me continue with the story right now. The NFL said that this field met minimum testing standards. Tretter tweeted, "We clearly need to reevaluate what is acceptable surface for players to compete on. We need new testing metrics looking at the performance and safety of every field. The NFL can and should do better." This is the most popular sport in the league, and you had the football field looking like a complete disaster before the game even begins, and they don't even try to fix it before the game even started. Did they forget they had a preseason game in Chicago? Anyway, the Bears hosted their lone game of the preseason 8 days after Elton John played at a concert at Soldier Field, which left the grass visibly damaged with lines of missing turf. Okay, so that kind of answers what happened with the field at this point. But you had 8 days to fix the football field from an Elton John concert, and you didn't even bother fixing it like right before the game. I mean, you had nothing going on for 8 days at Soldier Field. What was the excuse? What was the lack of knowledge at that point where you need to fix a football field at this point? Even if you had an Elton John concert 8 days prior, that should be like a bell ringing, like, oh, we have a football team in this town. They won a Super Bowl back in '85, and the field looks like shit. Maybe we should fix this. Common sense, people. Common sense. But that was a really pathetic way that stadium looked right now. No excuse right now for the NFL to allow that game to be played on in an area where it was terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Chicago Fire, who also played on the Soldier Field, announced before the concert that they were moving their August 21st game to a nearby SeatGeek Stadium due to the expected field condition at Soldier Field. I look at it like this. If I'm the Chicago Bears right now and my football stadium is not fixed up by the time the regular season starts, I would just do what the Chicago Fire do right now, the soccer team would be doing right now. Moving my stadium to a different venue or moving the game to a different venue, because it's not going to look good if you keep playing on Soldier Field with the conditions looking like this. And if they're not going to even bother to fix it, I'd say play there the rest of the year. Play there the rest of the year at that SeatGeek Stadium. Anyway, LeBron James' son has got some recruitments. He's got people who are interested in recruiting him, like Ohio State, Michigan. And let me see. I have the report right now here. These are the 3 teams I have so far on here. I just had it on here. Did it get deleted off my thing? Oh, here we go. Ohio State, USC, Oregon, and UCLA are the ones who are the leading board right now of recruiting LeBron James' son. Bronny James, by the way, who averages like 10 points a game, sometimes even lower than 10. My opinion on this one is this. I think the PC Friars would be perfect for him. Providence, Rhode Island, right? I know. I don't want LeBron James's entourage to come here either, but in my opinion, with the way he's been playing basketball in high school and the fact that he thinks he's going to go in the G League or be on the NBA level, he's delusional. All the people out there that put this kid on a pedestal are all delusional. The kid is not ready for playing basketball in the NBA level. I'm sorry, he's not. He needs college experience. He needs 4 years of a college education really to be smarter than his father and hopefully not as woke as his father. And he needs really a full-on college basketball, I'd say 2 to 3 year experience, because I don't think he needs all 4 years. I mean, he can finish his 4th year out online and do it that way and get a degree that way. But, I mean, I'm looking at this kid, and I'm seeing all the schools that want him, and I'm thinking to myself, I can't imagine him in UCLA. I kind of can't imagine him a little bit at Michigan, but not really. Ohio State, definitely not. USC, definitely not. And Oregon, definitely not. I just can't see people staying up on the East Coast 10:15, 10:30 at night to tune in to watch LeBron James' son play basketball on the West Coast. I just can't imagine it. And especially if the kid's not that good. PC's a good place for him because, you know, either he could be a starter or learn from the bench from the coach. And I think realistically here, I think PC would be perfect for him because there's not a lot of high expectation for PC anyway. Hell, nobody expected them to go deep in the NCAA tournament like they did last season. And here they are. They go deep in the Sweet 16. So that's that. The other thing is, I mean, I just can't imagine the Big Ten wanting anything to do with the whole James family. I just can't imagine LeBron James going to Michigan, Wolverine Town, to watch his son play basketball in Michigan. Or him going to Ohio State, the Big U. Just all these things, I just can't imagine him doing. I really can't imagine him doing at all. Anyway. Let's see. We got some baseball news. Fernando Tatis was suspended for 80 games for using performance-enhancing drugs. This is what he said. This is what the Bleacher Report walk-off had said. They released a statement from Fernando Tatis Jr. stating he inadvertently took a medication that contained a banned substance and will serve his 80-game suspension immediately. They had a long-ass letter. I'm not going to read into that one. But I will say this, though, about Tatis' suspension here. I don't know if this helps the Padres. I don't know if this makes the Padres a little bit better. But it's to a point where there's not going to be a distraction for Tatis, for this team. I think him being off the team made this team a little bit better. I mean, you talk about last year, the little downfall they had with him there, and the team completely collapsing from losing a lot of games towards the end, and they had a big advantage in the NL West division. And it seems like now, I mean, they're really pretty much in the driver's seat at this point to win. Or at least get in the wild card picture. I mean, not going to win a division, obviously, but at least get in the wild card picture and maybe compete against the Dodgers in the series. Because right now they're 65-52, and they just had a series where they just beat the Nationals 2 out of 3. And with Juan Soto, by the way, their Washington Nationals homeboy, who's now with the Padres now, it makes sense here. I don't think Tatis is really needed on this team. I really don't think he is. I got to be honest. I don't think there's not really a reason why he's even around. There's no reason for him to be around at this point. There really is no reason. Major League Baseball Field of Dreams is not happening in 2023. It is no longer will be taking place in Iowa. And I thought about this, and I thought to myself, you know what? That stadium is really old. But you want to know when they really should do the Field of Dreams every year, when they really should do it. I don't know why they do it in August. But do it on a Hall of Fame weekend. Do it at Cooperstown. You know, bring back the Cooperstown. Bring that back to Cooperstown baseball stadium. That really nice retro stadium that they have in Cooperstown, and play baseball there. Have the Field of Dreams be on Hall of Fame weekend. I don't see why they don't do it there. I mean, to me, it makes a lot of sense to have a game there. To me, I thought to myself, Iowa out there where not really a lot of baseball really happens out there. And the most interesting thing right now in Iowa right now is the Iowa Hawkeyes football team, basketball team, and the wrestling team. I just think to myself, is there really a growth in baseball in Iowa Because if there'd be a baseball team in Iowa who actually would be playing on that field. And I said to myself, every year when they do these things, it doesn't really have that feel anymore. It just doesn't. We live in a different generation now, full of people right now at this point who aren't really, with that program. They don't really realize, they don't understand why the baseball game is being taken place in Iowa. I figured it was because of part of history of an old, tradition. And I thought it was tradition because of the Field of Dreams. It's about tradition. To me, the tradition's dead. That field is dead. The atmosphere is dead, especially with that game that you put on. You put on the Cincinnati Reds and Chicago Cubs. By the way, both teams suck, so they have no purpose of using that game on television. They don't. It sucks. Both teams are terrible. There's no reason for that game to even be put on TV. Now, I get it for Joey Votto right now. It's a nice experience for him. He was honored playing on that field. But I know something? The fact that this is the last time they're going to do it there, I say do it in Cooperstown, New York. And better yet, if you don't want to do it in Cooperstown, New York, I'd say do it. I don't think they've ever done this before. But do it at a venue like a very nice venue, like in New York City. Do it in New York City. Do it at they should do it like a Madison Square Garden type of thing, where they just have an outdoor event at Madison Square Garden. I don't know if it's physically possible to have a baseball stadium there, but it'd be nice. Or if they really want to make it interesting, do it the end venue where the All-Star game would be, and change it up every year. Have the Field of Dreams be on that either on that All-Star weekend, or in this case, you do it at Cooperstown, New York. Cooperstown, New York has more prestige to it. They could do a Madison Square Garden type of thing where they can just knock the building down for a bit or two and make it a baseball field they really want to with 15, 20,000 fans. But I just can't see them doing that. I mean, I really can't. It'd be hard to do for a venue like that. But, it would be interesting to see if they could do a baseball game inside at Madison Square Garden. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but I don't know. Anyway, Detroit Tigers fired Alex Avila, the longtime general manager, after 22 years, after a very horrible rebuild on his part. And I think the one manager who got on fire was A.J. Hinch. And kudos to him, because that Tiger team was definitely not going to go anywhere. Alex Avila still being a GM after all this time. He should have been fired from GMing this team 3 or 4 years ago. The fact that they waited this long, and the fact that it happened this quickly, that surprised me, because I thought Avila would be gone. This guy has been known to be a failure in Detroit. He forced Dombrowski out of town, Jim Leyland out of town, all the other managers out of town. The only person he hasn't really forced out of town yet is Miguel Cabrera, and he should have been retired already. He should have retired last year. But he's still playing good, somewhat good. So that's a good thing. But, he was fired as of Thursday, I believe it was. The news came in. And honestly, he deserved to get fired. The guy deserves to get fired. No reason for this guy to even be around anymore on the team where really it's the status quo. Just continue to suck, continue to suck, continue to suck, continue to suck. That's the reality for Alex Avila at this point. He's got no passion for the game anymore. And after 20+ years, and maybe it was a lockout. Maybe it was the lockout in his head. Maybe he was just needed a mental break from baseball. But step down and retire if you think you're done. Don't waste another year like you're doing right now. There's this great franchise, and make this team look completely useless, and basically you're basically forcing Detroit Tigers to leave town. Like it's either you or the Tigers. The fans chose the Tigers. They didn't want you around Avila. So, I mean, in my opinion right now, I think Alex Avila might be probably the worst GM the Tigers have had in a long, in recent memory. I mean, it was great. It was great in the beginning, but when you traded people away, great talent away, you were just setting up your own, putting your final nail in the coffin. I couldn't get the phrase out quick enough. But yeah, it was not a good look for that man. Not a good look for the city of Detroit now to have that guy around for another 5 or 10 years. This was never going to work. I mean, if 7 years tells you right now where you don't get out of last place at all, it's kind of bad. Kind of embarrassing if you ask me. Granted, right now, I believe they're in 4th, I believe. If not that, then probably 5th. But they're not in the right frame of mind. They're really not in the right frame of mind. Bill Russell has having the number 6 jersey retired permanently by the NBA. This was reported as of a couple of days ago that Bill Russell announced the jersey. I think he should retire the jersey. I already made my claim on this right now at this point. Most legendary player of all time, 11-time champion, at least 5 or 6 MVPs. He's been to multiple NBA finals. I think he's been to 12, I believe. Only lost 1. Kind of ironic how that works. 9 as a player, 2 as a coach. I mean, to go 11-0 and 11-1 in the end, I mean, that's remarkable right there. That report was made by Bleacher Report as of the other day. And, more news right now besides that right now. The Jets signed Dwayne Brown to a 2-year, $22 million deal. That was a couple of days ago. That was as of Friday. Michigan State Spartans head coach Tom Izzo signed a 5-year deal, $31 million contract with be a coach for the Spartans for the next 5 years. These 5 years better be worth it for Tom Izzo at this point. He needs to win another championship to be relevant at this point, as far as coaching goes. But yeah, at this point, it'll be interesting how this plays out. Albert Pujols, by the way, getting closer and closer to 700 home runs. Right now, he's currently on 688. He's now 1 home run shy of the impressive Barry Bonds record, which I thought Barry Bonds had 756, unless they just take away like every single. It says here he's 1 shy of it, but I don't know how he would be close to carrying. See, this is the one that I can't say about these people that rush these titles. I mean, how is he close to catching Barry Bonds? Barry Bonds has got 756 home runs. Anyway, but he said that the first baseman is set to retire this year, well short of the record. He currently sits 5th place with an outside chance to pass Alex Rodriguez for 4th if he get hot in the next 2 months. I believe he would be passing A-Rod. I believe he's had 690 or 700, I think, in his career. So if Pujols can get to 702, 703, hey, that's good for him. These next 2 months are crucial for Albert Pujols at this point. They really are. Just one more report from the NFL. I'm actually going to wrap the show up early here because there's nothing really else to talk about here. Over 650 Black NFL retirees have a neurological test rescored at their court ruling. Around 304 Black NFL players are now eligible for financial compensation from the league's $1 billion concussion settlement after the neurological tests were rescored to eliminate adjustments to test scores based on race. Mary Claire Dale of the Associated Press reported Friday that the cases of over 650 former players were reevaluated based on the updated test scores, which showed 51 qualified for compensation for advanced dementia, and nearly 250 were eligible for financial support and further testing after showing signs of early dementia. Not looking good for the NFL. The NFL announced a $765 million settlement with agreement with former players in 2013 after the lawsuit was filed 2 years earlier. The estimated cost reached nearly $1 billion by the time it received final approval from U.S. District Court Judge Anita B. Brody in 2015. So it was retested right now, and around 300 former NFL Black players are now eligible for financial compensation. Good for them. Good for them at this point. I mean, for these guys to get the results they needed at this point, it's great. I mean, it sucks that most of them are suffering dementia at an early age, and very early dementia. That's not a good sign for those people. It's unfortunate that this had to happen to most of these NFL Black retirees. It really is. It just doesn't sit well with me. I mean, and these players sacrifice a lot in their careers, in their early career. Like the early 2000s, the 70s and 80s and 90s. Those times were rough times in the NFL because people were getting jacked up every week. And and now it's unfortunate now that most of them are going through early dementia, but at least now they have the financial compensation now where they get support right now and they can get the help they need. They can try to live as much as they can. So I'm glad for them. Again, congrats to those black retired NFL players. They deserve every penny they get. They did a lot in this league for so many years. Can't really imagine why at this point they would just blackball them like that. That's just bizarrely stupid at this point. But now the NFL's got justice now. I have one more Patriots thought right now about this, and I'll get on my way with this right now. So the Patriots right now lost 23-21. I wanted to get onto this thought here because I didn't really cover the preseason that much. Anyone on the Patriots here, but let me get this out in the open right now. Matt Patricia should not be calling the plays for the Patriots. He should not be the offensive coordinator for the Patriots. He should not be the offensive line coach for the Patriots. If you ask me, Brian Hoyer had better usage of the offensive line that game Thursday night than Sepe did. He had a terrible first half, but had a much better second half. I don't know what that tells you right now about the Patriots right now at this point, but if Mac Jones was in serious trouble earlier last year in the offensive line, imagine this upcoming season with this offensive line being as terrible as it is. They're awful, and their defense blows. Their defense is absolutely terrible. To allow 270 yards of total offense from a bunch of scrubs in the first half of that game and really allow them to really take over after Zeppe took the lead for you, you're pathetic in my opinion. You're a pathetic football team, in my opinion. Your defense can't stop anybody at this point. We're going right back to 2010 all over again with this, when they were dead last in the NFL in defense. Dead last in NFL in defense. And a year after they were 31st. Now, it didn't last long because by that year they were like a top 5, top 10 defense, sometimes even top 15. But there was a lot of problems with this team, a lot of issues with this Patriot team on Thursday night. And I gotta be honest, right now at this point, as I'm watching this preseason progress right now, the confidence level is not there for Mac Jones or any of the stars for that man. For the entire starting crew to get benched. I mean, for week 1 preseason, I mean, it's interesting, really, for a second-year quarterback for all of them to get benched. But I can tell you right now, week 2, if we see any more of this bad defense from this Patriot team and a very bad preseason game against the Patriots, against the Panthers, I should say, Friday night, I mean, I don't see how the regular season is going to look any better. I mean, they've had sucky training camps for the last 2 or 3 weeks. They had one good training camp week, and then it went to shit all over again. And I just feel like this Patriot team is getting worse and worse and worse by the day. And it's not looking good. It's not looking good for Mac Jones. It's not looking good for Bill Belichick. I'm telling you right now, if this Patriot team falls under 500 and misses the playoffs this year, Bill's going to get fired. Matt Patricia's going to get fired. And the only survivor in this whole thing will probably be Joe Judge. Steve Belichick will have to go too because I don't think he's going to stick around and his father gets fired. So that's my opinion. I think Bill's going to get fired. I mean, people are going to look at it and they're going to go, oh, that's too soon. I'm thinking to myself, that's too soon. Okay. You didn't win a playoff game since the AFC title game in 2018, right? You haven't won that since. Okay. 2019, what did you do? You lost a playoff home game, wild card game against the Tennessee Titans, Tom Brady's last game. You missed the playoffs with Cam Newton. And then this past year with Mac Jones, you went to Buffalo and you got your asses kicked by the Buffalo Bills by 30 points. That's not how a Patriot playoff game should go, especially for any rookie quarterback for that matter, who plays for the New England Patriots. That should not happen. The game should have been at least close, at least by a touchdown or two. But the fact that Buffalo ran them over, 8 straight touchdown drives, what can you say? Besides, that was terrible. That was a terrible experience. And this preseason game showed me some warning signs about how bad this defense is, because this defense is going to suck. I mean, I can tell right now, I mean, as crappy as that offensive line is for Mac Jones looks right now at this point, and look at Trent Brown. And I saw this in camp too because I didn't even recognize him at first. Trent Brown looked like he dropped 70 pounds. And I got to be honest with you, at this point, I don't know what the stipulation is in that contract and why he's going to stay at the 285 level. He looked like like a freaking man beast. Really, when he was over 300 pounds. Sure, he played like crap for the Raiders. I mean, the Raiders, scheme wasn't good. But the Patriots scheme was. He was happy in New England. He was happy with the weight gain. I don't know who told him to lose all that weight, but it ain't working for him. It ain't working for him as a left tackle either. He's gonna if he's 260, 270 right now, and he's dealing with a 340-pound dude, it ain't going to work out for him. And maybe they just want him off the team. Maybe this is their way of cutting him. I don't know. But to me, if they cut him, this is a stupid team as far as I'm concerned, because that's the only good offensive lineman you have left other than David Andrews. And if you lose him, your whole season's done. You have no Ted Karras to rely on because he's now in Cincinnati with the Bengals. So I know the Stars didn't play last night, but this was terrible last night. And Bailey Zappa was getting absolutely pummeled last night by a bad offensive line blocking. I wouldn't be surprised if half of it was already cut by cut day. I have my doubts on this Patriots season right now at this point. They're in really deep crap at this point. So we'll see what happens now down the road with them, but I just think their season is up in smoke as of right now. If this is how it plays out throughout the entire year, I don't see how they're a playoff team. I really don't see how they're a playoff team at all. I don't. I know it's only a preseason game week 1, but that was a atrocious defense they put out there. And I can see why they didn't want the Stars to go out there. Maybe it shows less slack, and it shouldn't matter because week 1 of the preseason, they didn't have their starters in there. But I don't know. Shouldn't that look bad from Bill's perspective at this point? This is what you chose for coaching. You chose Gerard Mayo, who I think is a decent play calling coach when it comes to defense. Your son, who's got a lot of question marks. Matt Patricia, who should have no purpose running an offense at all. He couldn't even run it in Detroit with Matthew Stafford. How the hell is he going to run it here in New England? And Joe Judge, who basically wants to do a quarterback sneak on 39 and let the team freaking lose because they don't care. I mean, the guy wanted more power. He didn't like the owner's son. He told the owner's son to go F off. The owner fires him. I mean, that's how it goes. And I kind of figured Joe Judge would go crawling right back to New England because he really should not be a coach. That's the one guy that should never coach in the NFL ever again. Well, actually, I should say 2 of them. Him and Urban Meyer. The 2 worst head coaches out of 2021 were those 2 bozos. So, I mean, we'll see what happens there and going forward with that. But I think Joe Judge survives this because no one's going to want him. That's the only reason why that he won't get fired. Patricia will get fired for sure. And if this continues with this offensive line, and this offensive line gets absolutely pummeled every time they play football, I have no use for that. I'm not going to watch a team that's going to do a horrible job. The entire offensive line was terrible in this game. I mean, it was pretty bad. It was embarrassing. And I know it's just a second team right now, but they look like they don't belong. They don't look like they even belong on the Richter scale of a practice squad or a training camp squad for the Patriots. That's how bad they looked in this game. And this is without Isaiah Wynn, who didn't even play in this game. And I got to be honest with you at this point. When Isaiah Wynn does play this Friday night in the second week of preseason here, and with Trent Brown, I don't see how it looks any good. I mean, it didn't look good in training camp. It didn't look good. It's not going to look good here in a game. And I think Trent Brown is going to have to pick up most of the slack because he's going to basically be a guy who's 2 people at once because Wynn's just useless. So that's my opinion. All right. Well, I might as well give you a score before I leave as well. I know I keep saying I got to go. But unfortunately, I got to give you the scores for baseball. Not unfortunately, but I'm just kidding. But in this case, I got to cover my baseball scores that are happening currently right now. The Reds beat the Cubs 8-5. The Cubs, I believe, won 2 out of 3 in this series, and they did, including the Field of Dreams. So that's good. But yeah, the Reds avoided the sweep. The Yankees play the Red Sox tonight. They're in a dead tie right now. The Yankees took game 1 on Friday. The Red Sox took game 2 on Saturday. Or actually, no, the Red Sox took game 1 on Friday, and the Yankees took game 2 last night. So that game is on later on tonight. It is Italian and Michael Walker going at it. Giants beat the Padres 5-3, and they're in the 5th inning right now in San Fran. Diamondbacks in Colorado going at it right now in Coors Field. Diamondbacks with the lead right now 7-4. Angels beat the Twins 3-2. Padres, they're actually in the 6th inning right now. The game's not over yet. Currently, the Angels right now are, I believe, in this series, and if I'm not mistaken here, ironically, are even in this series. So the Angels win tonight. They take 2 out of 3 against the Twins. The Diamondbacks, I believe, have taken most in this series against the Rockies here. They had a struggle of a week against the Rockies. But as of yesterday, as of the last 2 days, they've had some even series. So they're at 7-4. Arizona can win today by taking 2 out of 3 in that series. Guardians beat the Blue Jays today 7-2. I think the Guardians take 2 out of 3 against Toronto. Cleveland is now 61-53. They're in first place of the AL Central. The Braves beat the Marlins today 3-1. The Braves are now 70-46, and they swept the Marlins 4-0. One of them was a doubleheader, and that was why. Rays beat the Orioles 4-1 today. The Orioles got one hit today. It was one home. Actually, I would say it was on a wild pitch today by Rosman. Rosman had a perfect inning, perfect game going on through 8 innings, but the one run was scored in the ninth. It's 4-1. That was the most ever by any pitcher that would tie the record right now in 8 innings. The Mets beat the 6-0. They sweep the Phillies. White Sox beat the Tigers 5-3. The Royals beat the Dodgers 4-0. They end the Dodgers' 12-game winning streak. Dodgers, by the way, were the best record in baseball at 79-34. The Astros beat the A's 6-3. The Cardinals beat the Brewers 6-3. The Rangers beat the Mariners 5-3. And that is your baseball scores. And we're actually out of time. So I'll see you all on Tuesday. I'm out.